And action 4 seconds in. There we go. Let's roll
Oh, wow.
again. Take two.
So, just for context, anyone who's watching this, it's not our night.
No,
Not
no,
every
no, no,
night's a
no.
good night.
I'll
No.
actually give you more context. Anyone out there that wants to help us with live streaming, call us or drop us a comment because we just can't get this going. All right. So yeah, here's another recording for everyone to enjoy in their own spare time. Don't tune in at 9 p.m. on Mondays yet.
Yeah, don't tune in at all. This feels like I had a car. I had a car when I was younger, like one of my first cars, and it just at one point the transmission started to go. And I remember driving, on the freeway, and I was going about 80 k's, and it just slipped into neutral, scared the hell out of me. That's how I feel right now, kind of doing this. It's like I've got these really good ideas, I got good conversation, and then we're going to turn around and look and be like, oh, I wasn't actually recording. So let's see if we can get this back on the road. Transmissions fixed. We'll see how we're going. I was talking about my Phoenix Suns. I like the fact that we're third. Unsurprising there. But what I like the most is how the DeAndre Ayton trade is aging like fine wine. So not only did we get a like for like in Nurkic, who is a slightly better passer, we also got other pieces as well. Just extra bodies on the court. See Little's getting a little bit of a run, and that would probably be the extent of it unless I'm really not following Phoenix properly. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because DeAndre Ayton was the right person to drop. We've dropped a really big contract to take on a lot of smaller contracts. So that's going to help us a little bit in the long run. But it was also just questioning his work ethic, his mentality, etc. And, it took me a little bit of time to find this quote, but with the magic of failing to record, now I can give it to you straight away. When DeAndre Ayton was being interviewed as a pre-rookie, pre-draft, he stated that his goal, his NBA success would be defined by getting to his second contract. And you alluded to it in the chat that we had before that, there was questions about his focus, etc. But I really feel like Phoenix has, they didn't win on the names on paper aspect, but they have won from an addition via subtraction. They have gotten rid of a problem that I think was really negatively impacting their chemistry or had hit a ceiling. And that's evident in the fact that he hasn't really played any different / better in Portland when he could be the number one option.
Whew, there's some key words there I'd really like to sort of revisit here. I guess firstly, the fact that you corrected your quote probably really assists me to sort of consider what you're sharing here. I guess initially when you sort of quoted it off the cuff, my thought was he had been drafted and his focus was his second contract. Yeah, but you're saying now this is a pre-draft, I guess, statement that is made. My first analysis then changes that maybe he wasn't really valuing himself as much as he thought. Yeah, because that's where my stance feels like it's changed here. Maybe it's sort of like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. So if I get to this second contract, I'm sort of like I'm happy with that. Yeah, and again,
Okay.
maybe this comes back to that personality perspective. Like I know he was always like highly touted prospect. Yeah, but does he see himself that way? That's the key, right? Everyone else saw him as a number one or top whatever, top three pick. But here's the catch: does he see himself that way?
Are you trying to like, okay, number one, are you the founding member of the DeAndre Ayton fan club? And number two, are you trying to psychoanalyze why he maybe didn't live up to the potential that you would expect out of a number one pick?
You used another word before that I'm going to really pull up right now. You said problem in Phoenix. Was DeAndre Ayton a problem in Phoenix, or was he just not the right fit?
Yeah, I would say he was a problem. I think I would. You think about it. He was drafted under the pretense that they already had a solid guard in Devin Booker. I really
Yeah,
think that was a strong factor
yeah.
as to why they didn't touch Luka,
Okay.
right? Because at the time, like a lot of people don't realize, at the time they had one of Luka's old coaches, like Igor. Cannot remember his surname. They had one of his coaches,
So
so everyone was kind of
was
expecting they
Kobe
might
and
slip
Dwight
into
a
it.
problem, or was that not the right fit?
I think the fact that Dwight Howard has struggled to maintain a consistent team ever since then is maybe indicative of Dwight Howard more than it is about Kobe, right? I understand that not everyone fits with everyone and not everyone's going to get along, but it's a common denominator scenario. How many teams did Dwight bounce around on? he's snubbed from the top 75 when he probably shouldn't be. That's probably on him a little bit. And there's some reflection that he needs to do for himself. DeAndre Ayton is currently on Portland. What do you see his next contract being? It's not going to be a max contract. No chance, right? Because he's essentially a 12 and 10 guy. He's a Clint Capella at this current pace. That's where he's trajectorying.
Well, this is the part that was obviously lost in the non-recording we had for the last whatever 10, 15 minutes or so of conversation. And I said his stats are being depressed by his role. Yeah, and his opportunities. And then I alluded to perhaps his personality. Now you've taken this to the stance where now I'm creating a new number one fan, DeAndre Ayton, membership club that everyone should jump on board, right? But I'm just saying that look, he's right now, based upon what 20 games, give or take at Portland, he's not a max guy. Sure, I'll give you that. But he's still got time, okay? And he's still going to get another contract or two, all right? And that will probably be in the 20 to 30 million dollar range, I would imagine, wherever there's a fit for him. What's his long-term prospects in Portland? That's another story. But he's still young, and there's still sort of opportunities there for him to grow with that club, or he goes somewhere else where they're looking for another big man. I don't know. That's way too hard to predict, though.
No, but I think the thing is that you look at Luka, who's on the exact same timeline as DeAndre Ayton is, and it's not unfathomable to say he will be an MVP. He can probably win thing. You haven't had him touted as the future GOAT. So I think it's okay to state that DeAndre Ayton has not lived up to expectations, not even just to the number one pick, but the fact that we would expect him being a pretty agile big, being able to defend the perimeter quite well, having a very good mid-range jump shot, to be having a better season than what he is on a team that has no aspirations to make the playoffs. He could easily take 20 shots a game and no one would bat an eyelid because no one's watching the Trailblazers. But he's not. And maybe that's part of the system that Chauncey Billups is trying to put in because, Chauncey Billups, the GOAT coach, all of a sudden. I don't like any of it. And the fact that he's not on Phoenix anymore has panned out beautifully, right? So I'm feeling really, really good. And you know what? Have you ever heard? It's not my own invention, but it's just something that I coined. You ever heard of my potential scale? Right.
I have not, and I'm all ears right now.
Yeah. So the biggest thing with life is the younger we are, the more potential we have, right? And as we age, we settle in, and all of a sudden, people hit a point, and they're like, you know what? He kind of is who he is at this point. Now, DeAndre Ayton's still young. He's, 24, 25? But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of like, I feel like he might have hit it. Like, this is who he's going to be. And that's okay. He might end up being a third or fourth option on a good team in the future and winning a championship. But he ain't going to be the man who averages 20 and 10. He's not going to do it.
I think I think considering off air, you suggested that we're not really cut out for this sort of conversations, but I must say this week we've definitely delved into depths we've never gone before right now. Like, I feel like, are you limiting this potential, what do you want to call it, Knicks potential scale to NBA, or are you talking about just people in general?
No, that's people in general. So this is like, you think about it, this is a little rant, but again, we'll keep it in. You think about, like, unfortunately, when children or young people die, right? So let's say you see it on the news often. You see like a teenager who crashes their car and they die at 18. And everyone's like, oh, they were so young and they were so full of potential. When a 40-year-old crashes their car and they're dead, they're like, oh, they leave behind all of this legacy. And like, that's kind of who they were at this point. Okay. We're not conditioned to care about people the older that they get. And so for him,
no, it's not nothing to do with that. An older person that dies clearly has more likelihood of dying, which is why we don't care as much.
So that's the thing. So this is why you're struggling to come to grips with this. DeAndre Ayton, in terms of the career prospects of being a franchise player, it's dead. It's dead. It's in a car crash. It's like, it's really bad. And he's going to do rehab, and he's going to like come out and just average 10 and 10, and that's it. And that's who he's going to be.
I almost feel like you're alluding to that I'm not getting this as much as you think I am because I'm older than you. But I'm gonna spin it right now as the number one DeAndre Ayton fan right this moment that maybe he was never the potential to be the number one draft pick. That's the reality.
No, you're right. Maybe it's a misdraft.
That's it. So and I guess if you redrew that draft, you clearly do not take him at number one. do you take him
No.
at number 8 or 10 or something like that? I don't know who else was drafting later down the order, but if you just look at potential there, probably he's sort of like closer to number 10 rather than number one. And now we're talking about players like Anthony Bennett and talking about players like Andrew Wiggins even to an extent, and so on and so forth. All these other number one prospects that were highly touted but did not probably live up to their number one pick status. And that's what DeAndre Ayton is. And what's wrong with that?
Well, I think, you know what? Maybe to be a little bit sympathetic towards him, maybe he's actually just a victim of a very good draft. So I'm actually going to read out all of the lottery picks so that you can get a gist of the caliber of this draft. So DeAndre Ayton goes number one, and he overtakes Marvin Bagley the third, which so far he's winning that one. Then he will lose out to Luka Doncic. Jaren Jackson Jr., you would think, would be on a
Oh, cool.
similar tier, has his
Absolutely.
own flaws.
Look, Jaren Jackson Jr. absolutely is above DeAndre Ayton. What's there to argue
Okay.
about that?
Yeah. All right. So then Trey Young, I would say pretty safe to assume that he's better. Mo Bamba didn't pan out the way that we would have hoped. Wendell Carter Jr., um, the way that people keep talking about him in trade talks, clearly there's some value there. Colin Sexton, maybe on par. Kevin Knox hasn't panned out. Mikal Bridges, clearly better.
Yep,
Shea Gilgis
absolutely.
Alexander, clearly
Miles
better.
Bridges, probably
Miles
clearly
Bridges
better
on
too.
par.
Ooh,
Jerome Robinson. Well, I've got this nice little table where it kind of tells you a lot of different stats. So you can see a lot of the comparative stuff there. But, and then you got Michael Porter Jr., right, who has his own flaws, and they go there. And then a couple of names that pop up: Dante DiVincenzo, Lonnie Walker, Kevin Herter, Josh
quick
Okogie,
glance here.
Grayson.
DeAndre Ayton goes number 7 in this draft. Yeah, from a talent
Okay, all
perspective,
right.
he goes number 7 in this draft. Yeah, and at number 7, his scrutiny is not as much as it was at number 1. And obviously, being number 1 is ahead of these 6 other players that have clearly exceeded him so far in their careers, including Luka, including Trey, Jaren Jackson Jr., Defensive Player of the Year, and obviously SGA, who's peaking right now. Yeah, that's the reality, and Mikal Bridges too is on that list.
Look, and you could do this with every draft. You could look at the number one pick and say he should have went down here. I just think, like to really like hammer it home, did he have the opportunity to be good? Well, yes, he did. So he played with a point guard in Chris Paul, who statistically has always made bigs better, right? He got DeAndre Jordan an all-star appearance based off catching lobs, right? Really. And played with Booker, who was a guard, so not really clogged up in the same position, and also had experience in the finals, right? He has had a very good start in Phoenix, really given a lot of ample opportunities to be successful. Now, did they mishandle that contract extension where Indiana was able to offer them something and then they just matched it straight away? I'm not too sure. And ultimately, that was to save like $5 million. So maybe there was an aspect there. But we often talk about fit. Maybe he just didn't go to the right fit as well. DeAndre Ayton had ample opportunity to succeed. He had ample opportunity to be successful. He could already have an NBA title if things go a little bit
Is he
different
not?
as
Is he
well.
not already
Maybe,
successful? He got his second contract.
well, yeah, according to himself, yeah. And now he's hanging out in Portland with a bunch of guards.
I feel a little bit of resentment that at the end of the day you guys had him. He didn't pan out. You could have got Luka. Here we are now. Hey, look, ride the up roller coaster right now, all right? And look, let's see how high it can get you this season. I don't know, man.
It's
Early days, all right. I guess I'm from my side as a Magic fan. We're both teams riding those 7-game win streaks. I'm not really prepared to jump on this roller coaster yet, even though I'm a fan, man. I think that's the point. But look, you guys clearly have a different sort of structure with vets and KDs, all-time talent there in that sense. We're not built that way. We're sort of a rebuilding sort of organization that's on the up. Don't get me wrong, but I still feel we still got a few road bumps this season. Which probably leads to my next little topic here before we maybe jump into some fantasy stuff. Is that I want to talk about this. I want to spin this one past you. Let me know your thoughts here. Yeah, today the article was Bucks complete the biggest comeback in this year's season. I think with a 26-point swing, ironically against the Portland Trail Blazers, which is a little bit of probably fool's gold there somewhat because they're clearly a crap team and the Bucks are championship aspirations, right? But then there was obviously a few days ago as well, the Knicks came back from 21 points down and beat the Miami Heat. And that was a bit of a collapse there in a sense for Miami in that game. Which leads to the topic here. I'm sort of curious because I guess maybe just to add some more context here. I had a game on the weekend with my kids, and we're talking about 14, 15-year-olds here, actually, But we were down 10 points. We were down 10 points. We did come back and we won this game. Now, there's obviously that's a much smaller margin than 26, but as we sort of know, junior players look at 10 points and you go, ooh, 10 points, yeah, and that's a bit of a hole, yeah. Um, I'm sort of curious, your thoughts. Why, and I guess specifically with an NBA team, or how, I'm trying to figure out how to best phrase this, can you lose a 26-point lead? But it does happen. That's the point. You know, why is basketball, almost, I'm going to phrase it this way, such a unique sport that you cannot hold or maintain a lead in these sort of scenarios fairly often? I'm not saying every team that's down 20 comes back, but I'm saying that it happens enough.
I'd say the beauty of our sport, that we love so dearly, is it's really a game of momentum slash runs, right? And so I've had far less experience coaching, but I've also, umpired a lot and I've also played a lot. So I feel like I've got a good chunk of games in my anecdotal base that it is amazing how sometimes someone just gets hot or a team gets hot or another team gets cold, and that lasts for a couple of minutes, and that's enough to really tip the scales, right? So at a local level, if a 10-point lead can be erased by some guy coming down and hitting three quick threes, right? In the NBA level, 26 points is the equivalent to 9 threes, which is not easy to do in one quick sitting. But what you could factor in here is if I start going cold and I hit 10 points over the next 10 minutes, for example, and you get lukewarm to warm and you hit 30 points over that period of time, the point differential now turns into just 6 instead of the 26 that you originally posed, right? So how do you do this? Well, free throws are one. So Giannis and Dame, I think, both shot like 15 plus free throws. So that's great because they're A, easy shots, but B, the time isn't running. And then you hit a couple of threes and all of a sudden you're back in it. I think the NBA game, we've seen it a little bit in the midseason tournament as well. That point differential being a somewhat of a motivator for the wild card slots, that people have clearly tried to push the score when otherwise they might let it go. But you could also get on the bandwagon of why do Portland want to win that game, right? So, when you go on the tanking conspiracy, because let's be honest, there's already teams in that window. You
Whoa,
can shrug. You can shrug.
you're opening the tanking conspiracy 20 games in already. Is that what you're trying to say here, man? I feel that's a real cop out, man. I think I don't think Portland were trying to lose the game. I don't think any
So you explain it
organization.
then.
Look,
You explain how they lost.
look. I'm not. That's the part. That's the question I'm posing. Yeah, and maybe how about we look at it more. Put it more specifically here. Are we now saying that perhaps Portland somehow played exceptionally well to build that lead above what we should have expected from them, and then they just came back to norm, and the simply that the Bucks were more talented than them, and they reeled them in? Or are we saying that maybe the opposite of that would be the Bucks are playing poorly, and therefore Portland just played normally, and then they just is there a correlation there on a comeback to do with talent or focus? Like, what is the biggest aspect here of a comeback being successful or unsuccessful ultimately when you're like down 20, 25 points? Like, surely as a coach, yeah, and again, I don't watch that many NBA games. You probably watch many more than me, okay? But from a coaching perspective, yeah, you're up 25, other team goes on a run, lead has been trimmed now to say 15, yeah, timeout. Yeah, you're still up by 15 points. What can we do here? Is it a substitution? Is it a message to give? What is the adjustment? Is it just energy needs to change and so on and so forth? But then now you're at 15. Now that lead dips to now 9 or 8. Well, probably you need to, as frustrating as burn another timeout. Yeah, we're still not addressing the issue at hand here. Okay, why are we now? And at that point, can you not turn it on, or is simply the other team so hot right now that you just can't reverse the trend now?
I think I think it's hard to pinpoint one thing, right? Because as I said, 3-point shooting can get you back in a game, free throws can get you back in a game, foul trouble, an injury, a lack of focus, etc. I mean, you probably sound like a reporter who needs to ask that question to Chauncey Billups of the Trailblazers because something did go wrong, right, for them to lose that game, or something went right for the Bucks for them to win that game. I think that is the dynamic aspect of our sport, where it's not like soccer, where you can have a very low scoring match and it can feel like someone dominates the ball the entire time. With a 24-second shot clock, with being forced up and down the court as quick as they are, you have to put up shots. And if you start missing shots and the other team starts hitting shots, that's how you quickly change. Yeah, you call a timeout, but timeouts aren't a magic fix to douse a hot team or heat up a cold team. And, I think in their specific thing,
You
the
don't think
talent's not the same.
you don't think timeouts sort of you talked about momentum, you talked about runs, yeah? You don't think timeouts play a significant part of being able to change momentum?
I I don't know. Look, it's been a long time since I played, but I feel like if I hit a couple of shots, like I remember I played one game and I think I hit like 4 threes in relatively quick succession, right? So a couple of trips down, like 5 trips down the court, I hit 4 threes, and the other team called a timeout. That doesn't slow me down. That doesn't slow me down. That revs me up because I know you called that timeout for me, right? So you think about someone like Dame Lillard, right, who maybe hits 2 quick threes and you'll go, oh, quick timeout. It's like he's sitting there like, you only called that because of me. And I reckon there's a bit of an arrogance that kicks in there, right? I don't think it slows them down the way that you want, unless there's a coaching philosophy that gets instilled that changes the way that Dame Lillard can take a look at his shots, right? So for me at that local level, like, oh, clearly this guy can shoot because he's just hit 4 threes. We need to shut him down. And at a local level, it's a lot easier to achieve that. For Dame Lillard, and you can see how I've compared myself to Dame Lillard, so I'm having a good rant here. But Dame Lillard, you're not slowing him down. And if you do slow him down, we're starting to kind of discover that him and Brook Lopez are a deceptively good duo as well as him and Giannis. So I think Bucks are finding a bit of a big three. And also what we could be seeing as well is the Bucks actually figuring it out, right? Because we are getting closer to that 20-game mark that we keep referencing. And maybe the Bucks are starting to figure out that their big three has nothing to do with Chris Middleton. And that's okay.
That's okay, hey. That's okay. I guess that's that's not too bad a spot for an organization to end up, right? And I don't know. I just pulled up our standings here, and it's not okay now. I'm 9.5 games behind everyone in my division. How'd you go this week?
Well, we played each other. So
Oh
I
yeah,
was
oh,
expecting to
obviously.
play someone else.
Yeah,
I was expecting to play someone else because we hadn't yet played them.
correct.
Um, but yeah, so look, I'm chugging along. I'm comfortably now at the top. I had a very, very strong week. Getting close to 1,000 points,
I have a question
50
for you.
blocks, 50
You picked
steals.
up
Go
you,
for it.
you picked up Miles Bridges, right?
I did. I did.
Did you not have other power forwards producing? Because you didn't drop a power forward.
No, I dropped 2 guards. I dropped Devin Vassell, who I think isn't there yet to be that consistent contributor. So you're welcome to pick him up if you're not aware. And Westbrook's been relegated to the bench. His minutes are starting to drop. And I think I correctly predicted that Harden's presence, I clearly took the right guard out of that. Now, I didn't fixate on the guards aspect there purely because I feel like I actually have a very strong. I have Tyrese Maxey and Tyrese Halliburton. Both of them, respectively, according to this fantasy website, they're number one. I got James Harden, who's probably not a great contributor. I got Jalen Brunson, who's a steal of a pickup at $1. And I've got Devin Booker. I feel pretty good on my guards. So I looked at my forward position. Right now, I've got Chet and Wemby, who they're having impressive rookie seasons. I heard a really interesting thing that they're the only 2 players in the league right now to have like 250 points and 100 rebounds and 50 assists and 50 blocks and 50 steals, something, very ESPN-like. Paolo's starting to hit some gear. Kyle Kuzma just puts up really bad stats for me on a bad team, so that's pretty good. DeAndre Ayton, who, we just spent a while talking about him. I like my team, and I got rid of 2 bad players. I got rid of my 2 worst players, I would assume, for
Okay,
Miles
so
Bridges.
so here's the point I'm trying to raise here. While you ranted on about pitching your team and stuff, but my question is more specific. And then now we can raise conspiracy theories and shit like that. But hey, that's fantasy conspiracy theories, and you're probably not going to buy into any of this, right? But so you added Miles Bridges, you dropped 2 guards, you added Miles Bridges. You already had Chet, Paolo and Kyle Kuzma did a default power forwards.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
because we have a limit of four. Remember, this is something that I voiced to you that was a little bit of a frustration that sometimes you try to, many leagues you don't have that limitation except for a center spot. But we've limited in our league to four for any position. So, you can't go guard heavy, you can't go whatever, power forward heavy, blah, 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 etc. All right. So
Okay.
you dropped two guards, you added Miles Bridges as your fourth power forward.
Yep.
I had Zion, I've got Zion, uh, Domantas Sabonis,
Yep.
Siakam as default power forwards, okay, and Anthony Davis. But when I tried to, so I got four. When I tried to drop one and add Miles Bridges, it said doesn't qualify. So one of my frustrations, okay, here, and you said, hey, everyone plays the same rules. I get it. I'm not disagreeing. Is that Uh, I've had players, and ironically, you've picked up two actually. Sangoon was one, and Miles Bridges was the other. Yeah, and they're clearly being productive. They were on my radar the whole time, and I've got a couple others out on my radar, but I can't actually pick them up because I don't actually get how to drop and pick up players, even though it feels like I should be able to. I don't know.
So, are you wanting a tutorial on how to play fantasy? All
Yeah,
right, let me
please,
help you out.
please, because
So
our
what I
viewers
did,
would love this part, right?
what I did was I dropped the two guards first and then picked up Miles Bridges straight into the empty slot. So I didn't try to pick him up with Westbrook still on the team and do a direct swap. I just did that. I don't know why it's not working for you.
So drop them first. So you're saying don't drop,
I just dropped
don't.
them.
So actually, so what you're saying is don't add and drop. Just drop then add. Is that
Yes.
sort of what you're saying? Okay, cool. I
Yep,
love
that's
the
what I'm
tip.
saying.
I love the tip.
No,
Great.
it's great. You're welcome.
Please,
You're
I'm
welcome.
last.
I think I think when we go back to the standings, because obviously I talked about my team, we go back to the standings. I'm playing the number one in the East team, so I'm curious to see how I match up there. I actually lost to the second team in the East. So obviously whatever week you get, like I had a really big Wemby game for steals, but I didn't really need steals this week. So it's those kind of things that can pop up and you get the weird things. I think the thing that hurts a little bit, and I do need to kind of air it because otherwise I feel like my mood's going to be ruined for the rest of the week. You were 0 and 12 in percentage categories. And somehow, despite being the number one team in the league in field goal percentage for a good while, you've jumped me this week. And despite having a pretty good free throw shooting and also being better than you jumped me in that as well. So I actually gave you your first two percentage wins. And irrelevant if you're the worst team in the league right now, I'm hurt. I'm hurt, and I'm disappointed in myself, and I
Well,
don't really know.
you know what? You know what I'm hurt at? I suck at percentages and I win other cats. And then now this week I just won some percentages and lost all the other, like literally every other single cat except turnovers. Actually, in fact, I usually lose turnovers, but this week I won turnovers. What's going on, Nick? so,
Um,
so I feel your pain in the total opposite way. And like I said in the group chat, hey man, the only thing that matters to me is that 3 and 6 doesn't work in my favor, and I'm continuing to look at this drawing board. And maybe my first tip here is to drop players, then add them. I don't know.
yeah, that's gonna change your life. And if you win the cup, I've got like a 10% stake in it now, so I'm excited about that.
Hey, look, I feel right now look, I'm not in a great spot here. I'm not in a great spot. If we could, maybe put my position into like an NBA scenario here. I feel like, do you remember that season when I think the first 41 games the Miami Heat were playing so terrible? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, a few seasons ago. Yeah, do you remember that? They were like not even in the playoff contention. I think like I don't know, maybe they won like 10 and 30 or something like that. In the first or 15 and 25 or something in the first 41 games or so. And then the second half they reversed it. They totally went like 25 and 15, and then they basically ended up at like 500, and they made like the playoffs or something like that. Maybe it was before the play-in even, and they like grabbed the eighth seed or something like that. I think. Um, that's probably where I'm at right now. I'm having a horrible start. I actually have no real idea because like I'm trying to build obviously, trying to win enough cats to sort of jump up the standings. But then this week, it's been the whole other opposite. So now, like, oh, like, I need more stats. My percentages seem better. But then if I try and build some, look at what I can do there. Does it flip it the other way around and I'm back in the same boat? Or like, how do I actually fix this across the board that I actually win a week and go 6 and 3 or 7 and 2? That would actually push me up the standings a little bit more and start to close some ground. I don't know. I think that's sort of where I'm at here. And hey, look, it's a good challenge. I made a lot of moves like you alluded to last week, I think, and I'll continue to just keep my eye on the waiver wire. I think, right?
Well, who are you playing this week?
I'm playing last in the other division, so
Okay.
can I win
Look,
this one?
I think what you've look, I don't, this may come across as a backhanded compliment, but I think you're overdue for a win because a lot of people in the league are actually like people are dropping off, which they normally do in this, and I think that they're going to have a lack of rotations, and I think you're going to be a beneficiary of that. You're going to be an active participant. You're going to get the stats that you need, and they're going to miss a couple of key games, and I think you're going to be perfectly fine. Unless you are the villain of the league and this is the only week that people get up for and try to win. So I don't know. It'd be one of the two.
Ah man, it's surely it's not that hard to just log in once a week and just set your freaking rosters.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think people might be wanting to do it daily. I'm not too sure.
Fair enough. Well, it has been a solid three-way chat this today. I feels like, right? we had we had the stream component, then the totally offline component, which then we had to repurpose for a recording. I don't know, man. What's left to finish up this week?
I think I think we just need to figure out how to stream so that we can just talk without spending 5 to 10 minutes talking about the stream or losing momentum in the stream. That would probably be the key.
So we started with please help us, and we're going to wrap it up with still please help us. Is that correct?
It definitely, I think, how would I put it? I would like to think of us as not DeAndre Ayton. I think we have potential in the podcasting game. We just haven't tapped into it, and I don't think we know how to tap into it at this stage. I think we need help. Is what it is. I don't know why this turned into a plea. I should have changed my background to be like one of those kidnap scenarios. We need help. We need help.
All right.
I'd like this to take off. I want to quit my day job. I just want to do this instead. I'd love to just chat hoops, but it's not happening, and I don't know why.
Pressing that button now.